Welcome back, everybody, to Lighten Up with Bo, where I take you through a lot of different things, but most importantly, A Course in Miracles. We're on the lesson number 10. My intention is to take something that's really been impactful in my life and try to deliver it in such a way that is not just helpful and insightful, but also, most importantly, helps us live lighter, helps us live into that pure, joyful, playful expression of God, of truth, of life, whatever word you want to give it. You're going to hear me say this a lot if this is the first time you come to my lessons. If you get triggered or notice that you close down based off a word that somebody says, it doesn't mean you're bad or wrong, but only the ego mind can be triggered, because the love mind, the Christ mind, the awakened mind, whatever you call it, is only love. So only love can react with only love and can only share only love. So when we are reactive, we are in our false mind, so to speak, the ego mind. So just something to think about. So even when you're reading the lessons or you're listening to me, nothing to be ashamed of. We all do it. But if you notice that you shut down with words, the ego's always trying to keep us from healing. So it's waiting for somebody to say that one word in such a way where they go, what did they just say? Yeah, that's not my language. I'm good. And sometimes it's not our language. Sometimes it doesn't speak to our heart. But sometimes maybe it's just the ego trying to push us away from an opportunity to be free. Maybe. Who knows? So let's move into lesson 10. Hope the lessons have been treating you well. The last lesson, as you recall, I see nothing as it is now. Now we're on lesson 10. My thoughts do not mean anything. Woo! For those of you that love to be right, uh-oh. My thoughts do not mean anything. My thoughts do not mean anything. Let's dive in. This idea applies to all the thoughts of which you are aware. Every thought that you're aware of, or of which you become aware in the practice periods. The reason the idea is applicable to all of them, meaning all your thoughts, is that they are not your real thoughts. We have made this distinction before, and we will again. You have no basis for comparison as yet. When you do, you will have no doubt that what you once believed were your thoughts did not mean anything. So just a little bit in that paragraph, they're not your real thoughts. As I've mentioned to you before, all along the way of healing, the ego is just waiting. It's always trying to get things. Our true self doesn't need to try to get anything because it already knows it. However, as we're being restored or remembering the truth of who we really are, it will come, the answer will be given. Well, if these aren't my real thoughts, what are my real thoughts? Those are on the way. But remember, in these lessons in the beginning, it's just asking us to soften into ideas that are probably for most people when they first do them, like they were for me, radical. They're only radical to the ego mind because the ego doesn't want anything to do with these lessons. So your real thoughts will be revealed, but I think it's profound to notice that it's saying your thoughts do not mean anything, and the reason every thought that you have applies to that is because none of them are your real thoughts. Paragraph 2. This is the second time that we have used this kind of idea. And what it means by this is the second time, in lesson 4, as you recall, it was these thoughts do not mean anything. They are like the things I see in this room. Well, now it's saying my thoughts do not mean anything. So the form is only slightly different. This time the idea is introduced with my thoughts instead of these thoughts. And no link is made overtly with the things around you. The emphasis is now on the lack of reality of what you think you think. The emphasis is now on the lack of reality of what you think you think. So it's basically starting to introduce that what if all the thoughts that you have about the seeming world and life are really fantasies? What if they have no reality? Again, I go back to the metaphor of a dream. When you sleep at night, you don't ever wake and run around in your life telling people the very real experiences you had when you slept and trying to convince people, like, what do you mean my dream wasn't real? Like, this happened and I was flying like Superman. It was real. Everybody would think you were crazy. Like, sure, you had a dream, but it had no real reality in truth. So it's the same thing, but the soul is having a dreaming experience with all these skin suits, these bodies. So it's introducing the idea that what if every thought that you have, because it's coming from your split mind, has no real reality? There's no reality to them because they're all thoughts based off things that are happening in the soul's dream called the human experience. Anyway, paragraph 3. This aspect of the correction process began with the idea that the thoughts of which you are aware are meaningless, outside rather than within, and then stressed their past rather than their present status. Now we are emphasizing that the presence of these thoughts means that you are not really thinking. This is merely another way of repeating our earlier statement that your mind is really blank. Remember in the other lessons that when you're thinking thoughts, it's not that you are not experiencing having thoughts. But again, the mind in the truest sense is really blank because, again, it's like a dreaming mind dreaming a bunch of images and then trying to tell people that you had some really profound thoughts. But to happen in a dream means that at some level, the true mind is really blank because you're caught up in fantasy land instead of the reality of your thoughts that are beyond the things of this world. That's another way to say it. To recognize this is to recognize nothingness when you think you see it. As such, it is the prerequisite for vision. So now it goes into the practice. Close your eyes for these exercises and introduce them by repeating the idea for today quite slowly to yourself, meaning in your mind. So close your eyes and introduce them by repeating the idea for today. So my thoughts do not mean anything. So I say it slowly. This idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. So it says, then add, once you've said, my thoughts do not mean anything, then add this idea. You could say it in your mind or out loud at this point. This idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. Continued in this paragraph, the exercises consist, as before, in searching your mind for all the thoughts which are available to you, without selection or judgment. Try to avoid classification of any kind. In fact, if you find it helpful to do so, you might even imagine that you are watching an oddly assorted procession going by, which has little, if any, personal meaning to you. Maybe you act like you're on the side of a parade, right? And all the thoughts going by, you just imagine the thoughts and they're like a parade going by. All different, all meaningless, right? Assorted procession going by, which has little, if any, personal meaning to you. As each one crosses your mind, so that means as each one happens real time, you might say, this thought about blank does not mean anything. My thought about blank does not mean anything. So you start the practice, which you do 3 or 4 times a day, by closing your eyes and saying, my thoughts do not mean anything. And then you add, this idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. And then you'll just sit there for a couple minutes, anywhere from 2 to 4 minutes, whatever your comfort level is, but 2 is usually enough. And you just say, Oh, there's a thought about my dad. This thought about my dad does not mean anything. There's a thought about the pain in my left thigh. This thought about the pain in my left thigh does not mean anything. And it doesn't negate that these aren't happening to you. What it's trying to help us is to detach from the meaning that we give it. Because if you're honest with yourself, some of these things are going to pass by and you're going to go, but no, but wait, but it absolutely does mean something. And it's asking and inviting us to let go of the meaning that we attach to all our thoughts, just to be willing. So the last paragraph, today's idea can obviously serve for any thought that distresses you at any time. So all throughout the day, what it's saying is even when you're not doing the official practice, if you notice any thought that disturbs your peace or any thought at all, but especially the ones that are distressing you, you could just use it right then and there. This thought about whatever's happening does not mean anything. In addition, 5 practice periods are recommended. Oh, I said 2 to 4, I think. Yeah, so 5 in this one. Each involving no more than a minute or so of mind searching. So yeah, a minute or 2, but no more than 2 minutes. It is not recommended that this time period be extended, and it should be reduced to half a minute, 30 seconds, or even less if you experience any discomfort, resistance, blockage. Great. Remember, however, to repeat the idea slowly before applying it specifically, and also add, this idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. My thoughts do not mean anything. Thank you all for joining me for lesson 10. I look forward to seeing you for lesson 11, but enjoy the practice today. What a gift to be able to surrender to the idea that my thoughts do not mean anything. My thoughts don't mean anything. Oh God, do I imprison myself by how much meaning I have blanketed on top of all my thoughts. So we're just in the beginning. Enjoy the rest of your day or night wherever you are. If you like it, feel free to like it. If you want to be kept up in the loop for more lessons or videos that I do, subscribe. If you want to reach out, you can go to my current website that I use, lightenupmovement.com, and have a beautiful rest of your day or night.